Hi everyone, this is the second video of two videos for week 2 for the workshop class, and this is going to cover two-point perspective construction of boxes and pyramids. As you can see in the image here, um, we have a series of boxes that are drawn in the two-point perspective environment. Similar to one-point perspective, we have the horizon line, which is our eye level, but in this instance, we've got two vanishing points. Unlike one-point perspective, there's no face that's square to our view. Instead, we have what we call the leading edge. So we tend to start sketching a box from the leading edge, and then from those 2 points, we project the side walls. And you can see in 2-point, these side walls will converge to their respective vanishing points. The same principles apply in that where you draw your view will determine the type of angle of perspective you'll get. So here you can see that this box, its base is actually sitting on the horizon line, and the horizon line, which is our eye level, is flat and horizontal. An object drawn above the horizon line allows us to see the underside of that object. An object drawn at our eye level, where the eye level is through the object, we don't get to see the top or bottom surfaces. And of course, below the horizon line, and in this position, it's pretty much called the standard 3/4 perspective view. Same principles apply in that we use light construction lines to construct our features and get our proportions and our perspective correct. And then of course we come over the top with heavier line weight to define the object as a solid. Two things we want to take note of, which is similar to drawing in one-point perspective, is that the vertical lines are perpendicular to the horizon line and parallel to each other. And of course, the closer a surface is, a horizontal surface is drawn to that horizon line, the flatter it appears. So we can see how flat the top surface of this box drawn at eye level is, as opposed to the surface just above it. And if we go even higher, we can see how open that surface is of the top of that box. And we can see that because we've drawn through transparently. Similarly, going below the horizon line, this surface here is a lot flatter than a surface that's drawn below that horizon line, and it tends to open up even more so as we draw that surface away from the horizon line. When it comes to constructing square-based pyramids in, say, the vertical orientation, you can see here we construct our box in 2-point perspective, being aware that the top and bottom surfaces should be proportioned as a square, and then applying our geometry that we know, where when we cross the diagonals, we can find the midpoint, and of course that's going to give us the point of our pyramid, either pointing upwards or pointing downwards. You can see that that center line is perpendicular to the horizon line, and it ensures that the point is positioned right in the middle. And of course then we finalize the sketch by constructing those lines from each corner of the square to the point to get our pyramid. Pyramids drawn on their side, like these two images here, you can see I've constructed a 2-point perspective box below the horizon line. The end faces are proportioned to be squares. I chose to have this left vertical face as the base of my pyramid, and to find the point, of course, crossing those diagonals gave me the midpoint of that square, and then you can finish off the construction of that pyramid tilted on its side. Here we have a double-ended square-based pyramid. You can see there's no construction of a full box here. Essentially, I just created a square in vertical orientation still projecting those lines to the vanishing point to the left. Of course, verticals stay vertical and parallel to each other. But then by crossing the diagonal to find the midpoint of that face, I can just draw a line through that midpoint to the right vanishing point, and then anywhere along that line would be the point of my pyramids. So you can see here, this point is on that center line, and at the back, the point is also on that center line. So let's go ahead and construct these. So having pointed out the key characteristics of boxes and pyramids drawn in 2-point perspective, we're just going to draw maybe 3 boxes and 3 pyramids just to apply those principles. Obviously, it's important to just keep practicing constructing these simple geoforms until you can do it without having the horizon line and vanishing points on the page. That would be estimated perspective, and that's essentially when you know you've started to develop a certain level of skills and you're developing in a positive way. So if we just draw, let's say, a box underneath the horizon line, box, of course, I mentioned we start off now with a leading edge, and that leading edge is perpendicular to the horizon line. Generally, we construct very lightly, but I know that the leading edge is going to be defined, so I'm quite happy to just make it a little bit heavier. Light construction, obviously practice your straight line control, and so we're projecting those 2 points to the right vanishing point, nice and light. You can see somewhere along there is going to be the right vertical face. And of course, now you allow me to turn my page. As I've mentioned, you just apply the straight line that hopefully you've perfected, and reposition so that I'm back in view. I can determine how long I want this right side to be. It should be a vertical line perpendicular to the horizon line and parallel to other vertical lines. It gives me another 2 points. I can project those points to the left vanishing point. Turn my page. Just apply confident, hopefully accurate projection lines to determine the depth of that left face. Another vertical line perpendicular to the horizon line will give me my left side. And it's here when you're defining your line work, you can fix up the accuracy of your projection lines. With these 2 points, of course, they must project to the right vanishing point. Remember to ghost over the top, look at the target that you're trying to hit. And realistically, if you don't hit that cross, we really only want accuracy of that line to about this length. Okay, so as it intersects, part of a cheat or a test is you could do a light vertical line at that intersection, and that could give you a guide in terms of where this line would cross at that top far vertical edge. Again, now I think I've mentioned lines that are really close to the horizon line can be a bit difficult to construct. So here I'm going to cheat a little and say that's my intersection there, which means this would be my wireframe box. Define the object as a solid once you're happy with the proportions and the perspective. Okay, so 2-point perspective box. We have the leading edge instead of a face that's square to our view. Let's do another one. Let's try above the horizon line. Now you can see I'm going to make this one a more vertical orientation. Apply the same, bring back into view. That line should be perpendicular to the horizon line. Projecting to the left vanishing point, to the top and bottom points of that line. Nice long line over to that right vanishing point. Look at the target. It's a nice light line anyway. Okay, good enough. Determine how long I want that to be on the right face. Just be aware vertical lines are parallel to each other and perpendicular to the horizon line. There's another 2 points. We project that to the left vanishing point. There's the underside face. And of course we draw through wireframe. Another vertical line to determine the depth of the left vertical face. Again, it's a parallel line to other vertical lines and perpendicular to the horizon line. We get another 2 points. To finish off the underside face, we project to the right vanishing point. And that's the key, I think, is to really work out, and it starts off with the pen that you choose, pressure, so that you can just have enough ink to see the construction line. And that construction line really is just there for you to see. It's not for anyone else. Sometimes I draw a little heavier because it doesn't show up on the camera. Of course, then we use heavier line weight to construct the object, which is a box here, as a solid object. So remember, this is just a demonstration to take you through process and construction. Please practice this. There is no assessment really in just drawing these boxes, whether it's 1 point or 2 point perspective. We are drawing these geoforms in isolation. The assessment really comes from when I get you to put all of this together and in either 1 point or 2 point generate complex geoforms using either planar surfaces like this, just flat surfaces and straight edges, as well as curved and planar complex geoforms, where we start to introduce cylinders and cones or parts of cylinders like radiuses, a radiused edge or something like that. So we'll be doing that in 1 and 2 point perspective, but this is the training ground to just understand how to construct. And of course, the more you practice, the better your line quality will be, and line strength. Okay, so there we go. Let's draw a pyramid. And we'll draw a pyramid, let's say, sitting on its base on the ground plane. What I can do, because it's just a square, I can just project a line, let's say, to the right vanishing point here, and then say the base of my pyramid is that long, the side. With these 2 points, I can project that to the left vanishing point or vanishing point to the actual end point of that line. Now people say, do you draw the vanishing point, project these lines from the vanishing point to the point on the line, or the other way around? Now here I'm projecting it from the vanishing point, but really, because when you estimate perspective, you're actually not going to have vanishing points on the page. So it's probably better practice to project from the point of your line back to the vanishing point. I'm drawing a square-based pyramid, so I want to proportion this to appear to be a square. So here I'm just lightly projecting a line so that visually I can see that as estimating it as a square in perspective. If I'm happy with that, I'll commit to this point, and then I'll spend some time accurately projecting that line to the right vanishing point. So that's going to be my square of this square-based pyramid, just slightly defining it so that you can see it. Of course, we need to know where the center of this square or the base is. So we just cross our diagonals. We find our midpoint. And then, because the pyramid is sitting on the ground plane, of course I can just draw a line straight up. It would be perpendicular to the horizon line, parallel to all other vertical lines on this page of sketches using this 2-point environment. And then just decide where I want the point of my pyramid to be. It just so happens that that sits right on that corner, the far side corner. So I'm not going to bother constructing that back edge, but I will construct the edges of the sides that we can see. You can see I'm just rotating my page. Sorry if that's sort of throwing you out, but I'll just reset. And of course, there's my square-based pyramid. It's still lightly constructed. Now I can come back and define the line weight. Sorry, define the object with heavier line weight. And like with the other sketches that are on this page, I could add a bit more line weight just to define them a little bit clearer. That tends to take time, of course, and my objective with this video is really just to show you method and process. Okay, so pyramid sitting on the ground plane with its point slightly above our eye level. Let's draw a pyramid tilting on its side. I think that one's going to be an interesting one to draw. So again, I don't have to draw a box, but I will draw a leading edge. My objective here is just to draw a square in vertical orientation. And of course, all vertical lines are perpendicular to the horizon line. So I can project those 2 points to my right vanishing point. Well, it depends. Where do I want the point to be pointing to of this pyramid? I'm going to say it's going to be pointing this way. In that case, I need lines that converge to the left vanishing point instead. There, and I'm just ghosting over the top, then looking at my target. And because this is the base of the pyramid tilting on its side, I need to proportion this visually as a square in perspective. Visually, it's about there. I'm going to commit to that line. Commit, but not make it dark. I'm just saying that's a proportion of a square. And my point is going to be pointing out this way, right? The point of the pyramid. What do I need? I need to find out where the middle of that is. So I cross my diagonals. There's the midpoint of that square face. And to find where the point lives, I can draw a line straight through that midpoint towards the right vanishing point. I'll rotate my page. I'll ghost through, so I go through that point, aiming at that right vanishing point. It's about there. And then decide how long I want that point to be. About there. All I need now is just to project lines to each corner of that square. Here I can see this line we won't actually be able to see when we hardline it as a solid. I'm just lightly constructing here, right? So there, and here's the underside face. So there's our pyramid tilting on its side with its point pointing above and to the left. We can come back with heavier line weight to define this thing, or this sketch, as a solid object, leaving the construction lines there nice and light. Okay. I suppose while we're here, I did say we're going to do 3 of each of these, but I think 2 boxes and 2 pyramids are fine. Please do practice just creating different boxes and pyramids above, below, through the horizon line, close to the left vanishing point, close to the right vanishing point. The more you do that, the more you'll understand the type of view that you're going to get, depending on where you sketch your object in relation to the vanishing point and horizon line. Here I'm just adding a little bit of shade to define some form. So I'm saying that any face that is pointing to the left is going to be in shadow, and this would indicate that my light source is coming from the right. So even this face here. And I'm just using hatch lines close to each other at the same angle, and the objective is just to give that side some tonal value so it appears like it's not as bright as the other face that I've left. Of course, we tend to use markers as industrial designers because this process takes a little bit of time because you're doing a lot of smaller lines. Whereas a marker, you can just drop it straight in and continue on with your sketching. Of course, the surface that is underneath the object is going to be darker, and that's why I'm hatching out the underside of this box that's above the horizon line. And of course, you can punch up your line weight just to bring in some contrast and definition to the object. But that's it. Boxes and pyramids in 2-point perspective.